My name is Aparna Lakshmi. I teach history in Boston Public Schools.
My name is Dave Connolly. I'm a Vietnam veteran and a poet, and I have been a teacher on and off over the years.
So Dave's been coming to my classroom for a few years now. My friend Cynthia Peters, who does a lot of different work around the city, I was teaching the Vietnam War, and I was thinking about seeing if I could ask somebody to come in, and she said, well, you have to bring Dave Connolly. He's the best guy to bring in.
The best guy.
The best guy. Not to gas your head up, but you're really my kid's favorite speaker every year. Last year, one of my students said that Dave changed his life. I've had students say that they were seriously considering joining the military, and now they don't want to. I've had kids say, you really helped me understand things that my family's been through, because my dad won't talk about what he saw, so it's powerful to hear somebody else talk about what they saw, because my dad can't talk about it. Helps me have some sense of what he's been through. I think that poetry... Who said this? I think Muriel Rukeyser said that if poetry did not exist, it would be invented the next day. There's a way that we see you when you read poems. Even though you're so open, there's a way that the poem just cuts everything else away.
On the Benoit berm, 2,200 hours, 2 hours in country. The first firing was down to our left, a rumbling rattle that flowed and ebbed and then suddenly died with 2 single shots and a wailing scream that left us all wide-eyed. The FNG, the fucking new guy next to me, he said it was a gook. Another said it was definitely American, like any of us had a clue. There was more firing, more screams through that night, the next day, the whole tour. I learned to tell who was shooting by the sound of their weapons, but never could tell who was dying by the sound of their voices. I have a degree in English, I have a degree in history. I've really studied the American foreign policy since 1945 to try to figure out how I got sucked into all of it. But I'm also really down to earth. My poetry is not stilted Moon and June stuff. It's got some nerve, and these kids resonate with that. It's like one of the kids in the first class, one of the young men in the first class I did today, he come up afterwards and he's like, who's your favorite poet? And I said, I got a bunch of them. I like Randall Jeffers, who has nothing to do with war, but he just really touches me. And he said, Bukowski, and I said, oh, he's a wise guy. He's like, I really resonate with Charlie Bukowski. And he's like, oh, cool. It's like, I got to find your book. And I said, oh, good luck. I can't get it published again. The country's on the war footing, and this is so anti-war that, I did my time, I did my duty, but now it's my duty to tell kids exactly what happened to me, and that you better be careful. I think what I have to say kind of resonates them, because there's absolutely no BS. There's none. I'm telling you exactly what I saw, what happened to me. No punches pulled, no apologies made. This is what happened, and if you don't believe me, you have Google. Go up online. I dare you to prove me wrong. So, it don't mean nothing. On his second day there, they went down into Benoit City with their brand new guns just hours after the Viet Cong had left, and strolled along a wide European-style boulevard lined with blossoming trees and the bloating bodies of Americans dead for days. He puzzled at their leader, the 19-year-old veteran with the pale yellow skin, bleached rotting fatigues, and crazy, crazy eyes, who hawked brown phlegm on each dead American, saying that don't mean nothing. You hear me, meat? And everywhere he went, there were more, down all the days and nights, all kinds of bodies, ours, theirs, his, until nothing meant nothing. I started writing poetry when I was a kid, like 13, mostly to try to impress girls, and if it worked, great. If it didn't work, I could always write a poem about how you broke my heart, and maybe that might work. But, and I appreciated poetry. I've always been a reader. But when I got to Vietnam and saw what was going on around me, I had to I had to make sense of it. So when things happened, I'd write down little snippets, just thoughts. And when there was downtime, and I'd flesh these things out into poems, something that made sense of, to me, what was going on. And since I come home, it's become even more so. The first North Vietnamese soldier I killed in Vietnam was named Tak. I know that because after I killed him, I took things off his body. I took his belt buckle. I took his hat. I took his ID card, some pictures, obviously his mother, and either his girlfriend or his wife. I also took a book from his body, and I thought it was a diary, and I turned it in. But I found out later that it wasn't a diary, it was poetry. I had killed another poet. Corporal Tak, first confirmed NVA kill. I see you still, your shining black hair, your high cheekbones and bared teeth, your glowing, searching eyes, testing each step as if it were your last. You flinched as the angry hornets I let fly snapped you up and then let you drop, a jumble of arms and legs and black and white scarf. Your last reflex killed the man next to me, but it's your death I remember. There's no pride, no regret, no way I'll forget. Your death, until mine.
And you've lived in Boston your whole life, is that correct?
I was born in the Old County Hospital in South Boston.
You were born in the Kearney?
Yeah, the Old County.
Glad you got out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I still live in Southie. I'll die there. I'll come feet first out of O'Brien's. You know, it was a very closed, very conservative community. All our dads went to World War II. Their younger brothers went to Korea. We were expected to go to war, you know? I mean, my grandfather was in the Easter Rebellion, and my dad and his only brother were World War II vets, and they saved the world. Looking at their experience, I had no idea I was being led down the garden path. I come home rabidly anti-war from what I saw, and we lost 25 guys in Vietnam out of a population of under 40,000. Per capita, South Boston lost more men in Vietnam than all of the boroughs in New York. I had friends, Dougie Eatree, Eddie Sullivan. You know, Vietnam wasn't worth one drop of their blood, not one drop. And it ultimately came down to nothing. Not even the Vietnamese won. Nobody won. It was tough to stand up and be an anti-war vet in South Boston because a lot of the people I grew up with, mostly Marines, and they fought a different war up north. It was almost cleaner. You know, it was the U.S. Marine Corps and Army infantry units who fought the North Vietnamese Army. Down south, we fought guerrillas, and we fought mostly in and around the villages. The vast majority of the people I saw killed and wounded in Vietnam were women and children. You know, I couldn't keep my mouth shut about it, and I still can't. I was brought up better than to keep my mouth shut and just suck it up, because I knew if I lived, I had to come home and face my mother. So, you know, and look myself in the mirror when I shaved every morning. But there are friends, I lost friends over it, who we say hi to each other, but we're nowhere near as close as we used to be, because the war got in the way, and our individual perception of what happened to us and our beliefs and the aim of our country during that just got in the way, because I see it one way, they see it the other. A B-40 rocket tunnels into the dike and blows the weasel against me. He doesn't get the chance to decide whether or not he should give up and die. Now I'm crying, and I'm screaming medic, but I have to keep shooting. At this point, I always wake, and Big Black Jerome and Little White William, my brothers, are not dying beside me, even though I can still smell their blood, even though I can still see them lying there. You see, these two, they've been taking turns dying on me again and again and again for all these long years, and still people tell me, forget Nam. This is why I wrote, in order to get these things out of me, to open these little sacks of pus and let clean blood flow, you know, so I can hopefully heal, and I'm better. I also have written over the years little kids' stories like Aesop stuff, morality-based stuff. That I have adult daughters and I have a son who's about to turn 21, and I used to put him down for a nap every day with these stories, and same with my girls and my grandchildren. And that's kind of a release from what I feel the need to write. I don't say Vietnam every day, but it colors all my perception. I am disabled from post-traumatic stress disorder, but it doesn't rule my life anymore. I'm sober. Alcoholism was part of my PTSD, but that doesn't leave me around by the nose anymore either. I don't act out. I won't. I won't give people the satisfaction of them saying, yeah, crazy Vietnam vet. They won't get that satisfaction.
Dave, you put me in touch with a young woman who served in Iraq. And she came and spoke to my class, and I got to understand on an emotional level how much work you must have done to be able to come and talk to people and say, you can ask me anything you want.
Anything, yeah.
Because that takes work to be able to do that. It's not just, I lived through it and now the next day I can come in and talk, It takes work to be able to hear any question that anybody asks and be able to respond.
I was just wondering, if there's one thing you could change about your whole experience, what would it be?
I wouldn't have gone. I would not have gone. But I didn't know. I'm a tough kid from Southie. I'm going to go over there and kick their ass, That's what I thought. I had been in the woods. I was a Boy Scout. I used to camp a lot. I knew how to shoot. I knew how to fight. I'm a black belt, I'm really not, I'm afraid of my wife. I'm afraid my wife won't love me. That's all I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of anything. I would not have gone. Not after what I saw and what I had to do and what happened to me.
Thinking of joining the Army of the Marines.
Oh, to do what?
Infantry.
Cut it out. Why?
I
You
just.
tough?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I grew up with a brother.
yeah. Were you a listener?
Yeah.
You're not going into the best of times, because
Well, long term, I want to do something. I want to use that knowledge to go into foreign affairs and to go into politics.
find some other field. That they have programs for people who just specifically want to do that. Learn a language. Learn Arabic, because we're going to be there for a long time. That would stand you in good stead. You can monitor radio traffic. You can be an interpreter. You want to have boots on the ground. That's going to put boots on the ground if you're going to interpret.
I don't find that interesting.
Huh?
I don't find that stuff interesting.
No, you're not going to find being a grunt interesting either. I don't know what to tell you, and I don't want to lose you.
Everyone says that, but I don't find the problem with war is so much as dying, but what your death means when you go to war. I feel like you coming back and surviving what you've been through and how you talk to us today is part of the reason why we know so much about the Vietnam War and both sides, the good and the bad, and how that could affect us long term, so we could see stuff that went on and make changes based on that.
Yeah, this is a different war than Vietnam. This is going to get dirtier and dirtier. It's acting. Just jumped right out of my skin again. I won't say you're throwing your life away with the decision you made, but please investigate a little more.
Because I see political science and towards foreign affairs and dealing with war as a possibility, but I don't really see that as a dream. I always see going in and fighting in the front lines and making a difference towards what's going on as a dream.
Okay, you won't make a difference. You'll kill people, or you'll get killed.
Definitely give something to think about.
Oh yeah, definitely. You sit down with a recruiter and don't let him snow you, or her snow you. I don't know who you're
I don't even
dealing.
buy into what recruiters tell me.
Oh, that's good. That's good, because they're just salesmen.
Yeah. Some of them haven't even been over there.
No, that's right. But I just wish you luck. All right?
Thank you.
Think more. Think more about it.
What I appreciate most about you, Dave, is the gift that you give yourself by healing, the gift that you give your family by healing, but also the gift you give us by being able to have come through and then talk about it from the other side. There's a real difference in talking about an experience from the other side of that tunnel, the other side of the pain, and to be able to show students not just about what it's like to come through the experience of having served in combat, but to come through trauma, because at least half of our students are survivors of trauma. From 7 years of teaching in Boston Public Schools, our students are survivors of trauma. Whether that trauma is, I have students who are survivors of civil war in their home countries, students who are survivors of firefights here in Boston, students who are survivors of domestic abuse, students who are survivors of PTSD. They're students who have been through all sorts of different things, and to hear somebody who has done that really, really difficult work, and it's not like you did it once and it was over, No. I remember last year you went, right, down to Connecticut?
Yep.
Just to have that as a possibility, that we don't have to drown in the trauma that's happened to us. We can speak it. You say we can exercise it out of us.
That's right. There is some redemption. Just open your mouth. There is some redemption. You're not getting over it. I will always have PTSD. I will always be an alcoholic. But I don't have to wallow in, poor me, the war screwed me up, but get led around by the nose by that next drink. I don't have to do that. And I've learned by hard work that there's a way above it. There's a way up and out of it. And there is some redemption. I've learned to forgive myself a whole lot for things that I had no choice about doing, but I did them.
I think that to have somebody who's lived through the war come and talk about this question of who are the war architects and who serves in the army, who goes to fight, and are those the same people? Are the people who are the architects of war the same people, or are their children the same people who are going to go fight? And to see that that's not the case, that we have almost no members of Congress who have a child who is in the military. And there's some reason for that, and we have to ask ourselves about that. Why is it that working class kids and kids of color are the ones who are going and serving and fighting and dying? So I think that intellectual piece is really important. I think that many students come in to my class with this notion that war is a way that people who have differences reconcile those differences. The way that two kids who, don't like each other fight each other to reconcile those differences. And to really understand that there are a lot more players and a lot more layers of what's going on besides the two actors in a conflict. The question that we're asking over and over again is who is the American self? When we say America, who's the self that's being protected, and who's the cannon fodder that serves someone else's protection?
The unit that I was in Vietnam was 70% black or Hispanic. No black officers, no black senior sergeants. It was just all working class kids, or kids from farms. But again, we're just cannon fodder, mostly black kids, Hispanic kids, immigrants trying to get their citizenship. Who cares about them? But there's a great book by a professor from MIT, Christian Appy, The Working Class War.
We've interviewed him before we
Okay.
our Vietnam War show. So,
Yeah, it's like he can't put it any plainer. I have 25 kids from South Boston.
Yeah.
Big holes in my life still. Vietnam wasn't worth a drop of blood, any of those boys,
Even though our country is at war, it's not the experience of most people living here that we're a country at war. Many Americans do not walk through our day knowing in every moment the reality of us being a country at war.
That's because we have what's become a warrior class, a caste. They go and fight the war. Nobody else has to worry about it unless that's your brother, your husband, your father. Nobody cares.
The sort of photojournalism that is so easy to find about the Vietnam War is so difficult to find about the war in Afghanistan and the war in Iraq. It's very hard to find the same kind of journalism about the war in Afghanistan so that we can talk about that war. It's not like the movies and it's not like the video games. I think that's there. So just this piece of the reality of it, I think that's the narrative that we're trying to break, that war is not real. And it's not real because it's happening to people I don't know.